Beneath the calm blue surface of the sea, a massive economic disaster is gathering strength, one that most governments still underestimate, and one that no insurance policy will fully cover. Ocean heat, the great absorber of human-made climate change, is not just a scientific concern. It is a financial time bomb. As the oceans release their stored energy, the consequences are cascading through every layer of human civilization, destabilizing food systems, inflating health costs, shattering insurance markets, and slowly eroding the foundations of economic security. What looks like a distant environmental issue is, in truth, a global fiscal emergency already unfolding in hospitals, households, and national budgets. When ocean temperatures spike, the first visible victims are not coral reefs but people. Heat waves intensified by oceanic feedback push cities into record-breaking temperatures, leading to mass hospitalizations. Every surge in admissions for heat exhaustion, cardiac stress, dehydration, and respiratory failure drains national health budgets. In the United States alone, climate-related health impacts already cost tens of billions of dollars annually, a figure projected to multiply as marine heat waves become more frequent. In poorer nations, where healthcare systems are fragile, the costs manifest differently: medical shortages, workforce exhaustion, and declining productivity as heat saps the ability to work safely outdoors. Economies slow not because of a lack of demand, but because bodies simply cannot function in the heat that the ocean keeps feeding back into the atmosphere. These health costs ripple outward into the insurance sector, which is quickly realizing that climate risk is no longer a statistical anomaly, it is the new baseline. Insurance companies are being forced to recalculate the frequency of disasters, and the numbers are grim. Rising ocean temperatures intensify hurricanes, floods, and coastal erosion, making once rare events almost annual occurrences. The payouts for destroyed infrastructure, damaged crops, and lost lives are ballooning beyond what actuarial models can handle. In several coastal regions, insurers are withdrawing entirely, leaving millions uninsured. Without coverage, homeowners cannot rebuild, businesses cannot reopen, and local economies collapse under the weight of uninsurable risk. The hidden cost of ocean heat, therefore, is not only in lives lost but in financial systems losing the ability to function. The social implications of this unraveling are dire. When insurance fails, governments step in, but public funds are already strained by the same forces that ocean warming intensifies: health crises, food insecurity, and migration. Every hospital bed filled by heat illness is a taxpayer expense. Every emergency relief operation after a flood or storm draws from public reserves. Meanwhile, agriculture, the backbone of many economies, is being undermined by rising ocean-driven temperatures. Droughts scorch fields while excessive rainfall and saltwater intrusion ruin harvests. Food prices climb, triggering social unrest and deepening inequality. Families are forced to spend more on basic nutrition, less on education and long-term security. The economic consequences become intergenerational, trapping communities in cycles of poverty tied directly to the planet's fever. The mental health dimension of this crisis is rarely factored into economic models, yet its costs are enormous. Ocean-driven disasters, storms, coastal loss, displacement, leave behind trauma that suppresses productivity and community resilience. Anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress reduce work capacity and increase dependency on public health systems. In regions where livelihoods are tied to the sea, fishing villages, tourism hubs, port economies, these psychological scars translate into widespread despair. The collapse of a coral reef or a fishery is not just an ecological loss, it is the death of an income stream, a culture, a future. Economists can calculate crop losses, but they struggle to measure the erosion of human hope, and yet that erosion is what undermines long-term recovery most. As the ocean continues to warm, supply chains will face new disruptions. Ports damaged by sea level rise or extreme storms interrupt trade. Fisheries relocate toward cooler waters, creating geopolitical tensions and depriving some nations of their traditional exports. Energy costs rise as power grids strain under heat stress and water scarcity worsens, forcing desalination efforts that are energy-intensive and expensive. These cumulative effects make basic goods more costly, inflation more persistent, and economic inequality more entrenched. The poorest households will pay the highest share of their income for survival, cooling, food, medicine, while the wealthy shield themselves behind private insurance, air-conditioned spaces, and imported food supplies. The result is a two-tiered world, one that adapts and one that absorbs the suffering. Global financial stability itself is not immune. Banks and investors are beginning to recognize that oceanic heat threatens the long-term value of assets, real estate in coastal cities, agricultural lands in heat-prone regions, and even corporate bonds tied to climate-sensitive industries. Yet, the adjustment is slow, and denial remains profitable. Many governments still subsidize fossil fuel extraction, even as those same fuels drive the warming that is now eroding their tax base through disaster relief and health expenditures. This contradiction is unsustainable. Eventually, markets will correct, but by then, the correction may come as a crash rather than a transition. The world's financial architecture was not built for continuous climatic loss. It was built for predictability, and the ocean's instability has shattered that illusion. The warning here is stark. The true cost of ocean heat is not limited to ecological damage or seasonal heat waves. It is a systemic threat to global health, stability, and governance. Every dollar not spent on mitigation today will become $10 of medical, agricultural, and humanitarian cost tomorrow. Every degree of warming stored in the sea represents future debt that no nation can afford to pay. The illusion that humanity can adapt endlessly, that economies can grow indefinitely while oceans overheat, is collapsing. And yet, many policymakers still treat ocean heat as an abstract environmental issue, separate from budgets or healthcare plans. In reality, it is the defining economic variable of the 21st century. If societies continue to delay action, the burden will not fall evenly. Developing nations will suffer first and hardest, but even wealthy countries will face uninsurable costs, bankrupt insurance systems, and public health crises beyond their capacity to manage. Hospitals will fill, supply chains will fracture, and emergency funds will run dry. The ocean, once humanity's stabilizer, is turning into its greatest destabilizer. It is absorbing the debt of our past emissions, and now it is beginning to collect. The bills are arriving not in numbers on a spreadsheet, but in lost lives, collapsing economies, and widening inequality. Unless the world treats ocean heat as both a medical and economic emergency, the century ahead will be marked not by progress, but by the slow, expensive unraveling of everything that modern civilization depends upon.